and welcome back to my channel Modern Modiste. In today's video I'm going to show you how I made this cute top. This shirt mixes in a lot of the latest trends. We have the collared sweatshirt trend, runching or ruching, however you like to call it, has been trendy for a long time now and it's still very trendy. And the shirt, as you saw in the intro, incorporates that. Loungewear as everyday clothes. This knit material I got from Joann's is super cozy and it feels like a regular t-shirt. Definitely good for lounging around or going out. And exposed seams. That's very trendy right now and that has been trendy. This one was a mistake. I accidentally sewed my sleeve on inside out and decided to go with it. But it's still trendy right now to have seams on the outside of the shirt. So if you like to see how I made this shirt, keep watching.
Okay, so first I took the pattern from my how to create patterns tracing your own clothes video, which I'm going to link, and I traced it onto my folded fabric. I'm going to extend it here at the bottom by 6 inches. You can extend yours longer if you want your top to extend to more of a dress length. Next I cut that out and I aligned the folded edge on the fold of my fabric and cut around all the edges except the neckline. Since this will be the front, I'm going to cut a V neckline. Now I have my front and my back. Next I cut out 2 strips of fabric that match the length of the sides of my front and back piece by 3 inches. These will serve as the casings for my side drawstrings. I went and cut 2 sleeves. The sleeve pattern is also from my how to create patterns tracing your own clothes video. I aligned the front and back right sides facing and sewed together at the shoulders and along the sides. I sewed the shoulders with a zigzag stitch and then sewed the sides with a straight stitch.
And now we have a vest. Now's the time to make adjustments to the sides according to your preference. I have this over 2 shirts and it's still pretty loose, so I'm probably going to end up taking in the sides a little bit. And then I'm going to get on to my next step.
So I decided to take in the shoulders a bit, and this is how much I took in the sides. This did change the armhole, so the sleeve will have to be adjusted accordingly. But now I'm going to go and cut off the excess fabric from the sides, and here is my new and improved shape. Now for the drawstring sides, I'm going to hem the bottom of the shirt with a double fold and sew in the edges 1/4 inch in on each side and a single fold hem at the bottom of each strip. I cut 4 of these 1 by 20 inch strips of fabric for my strings. And I'm going to fold in the edges to the center and then fold it in half and sew it in place to create my drawstrings. But before I go do all that, I pressed open the side seams. And now I'm just hemming the bottom of my shirt, sewing in the sides of the casing, and sewing my fabric strips into drawstrings. With all that done, it's time to put it all together. I lined up 2 of my drawstrings along each side of the seam and then laid my casing over the drawstrings like this and pinned the casing in place just above the hemmed edge of the shirt. At the top, I made sure to pin my drawstrings in place as well, and I'm going to sew across the top and then I'm going to sew along the sides and down the center. I added a few more pins just to make sure the drawstrings would not get sewn down when sewing the sides and the center of my casing. I then sewed along the armhole and trimmed the excess fabric, and then I just used my fingers to fill and make sure the drawstrings weren't getting sewn when sewing the casing. This is the result, and now I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. Here are my finished sides. Next, for the neckline, I cut a long strip of fabric about 1 inch wide and folded it in half and aligned it with 1/2 of the neckline like this, starting about 2 inches from the shoulder seam, and trimmed it. I took another piece and did the same thing, and I'm going to sew the 2 pieces together here. I trimmed off the excess fabric and then I aligned the point with the center and pinned it to my neckline right sides facing. And then I sewed it to the neckline. I trimmed the excess bulk on the inside and then stitched in the ditch. Next for the collar, I measured around the remaining collar plus an extra inch and seam allowance. And then I cut 2 collar pieces. The bottom edge of my collar matched the measurement I just measured. I added interfacing to one half of the collar and then sewed the 2 halves of the collars together, right sides facing, but not all the way down to the bottom edge, leaving ½ an inch not sewn here. Next, I trimmed the corners and turned my collar right side out and pressed it. I clipped to mark the center of my collar and pinned half of the collar to the neckline, making sure the edges slightly overlapped in the front. I didn't do a good job measuring the collar and I accidentally ripped my interfacing stretch in the collar to sew it onto my neckline since I was stretching it to match the length of my neckline. But once that half of the collar was sewn on, I folded under the edge of the other half of the neckline and pinned it in place like this. Pressing the edge before sewing the collar halves together would make this step right here so much easier, so just keep that in mind. Once everything was in place, I stitched in a ditch to sew the collar in place and then top stitched around the other edges of the collar. Now the final step is adding the sleeves. I folded the sleeve in half and sewed the edge here together with a zigzag stitch. Next, with my shirt inside out, I put the sleeve into the shirt and pinned the edges of the armhole and sleeve together. And then I sewed them together with a zigzag stitch.
I'm a little tired and I'm continuing to sew instead of go to sleep, and that usually results in things like this. I sewed my sleeve on inside out. I don't know, I like it. I'm gonna go with it, and I'm gonna do my other sleeve the same way, and then I need to hem.
So I added the other sleeve the same way, but the correct way would have been to make sure the sleeve was turned right side out, while the shirt inside out when inserting and pinning the sleeve to the armhole. Once my sleeves were attached, I hemmed my sleeves with a double fold. I also went and stitched a little stitch here to hold the collars in place, and I decided to shorten my drawstrings a little bit, and that completes this tutorial.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And thank you to everyone who has subscribed and has been subscribing. I'm at 900 as of now and very close to 1,000. So thank you all for following along and subscribing and just watching my videos. Stay tuned because I'm going to be making a lot more tops and bottoms and jackets, my favorite, all kind of stuff. So stay tuned. And I'll see you in my next one. Bye!